Hello team and welcome to the Process Programming CrossFit Games update show. I am here with Ant Haynes. Ant, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Slightly different format today, team. We are on Zoom in our households. We have had, they're calling it the fifth wave here in Hong Kong, a recent outbreak of COVID that has stemmed from the gym community. So we're basically doing everything we can to basically ensure that we're doing everything we can to stop the spreading of the virus. And we recommended a 14-day closure from the date of when this all kicked off. So we are through that. And that, of course, includes staff. So some slightly different production value today, but hopefully you still get the same out of it. We are here to talk about 21.1. In this episode, we're going to be sharing our thoughts on the workout, our thoughts on the new movement, wall walks. We're going to talk about the leaderboard. We're going to talk about training to get better at this movement. And I think we're going to finish by talking about what we think we're going to see next week. So I think, Ant, you're going to kick us off here. Let's firstly talk about this very first workout, your thoughts on a new movement, wall walks.
I'll be very honest. I think when it first came out, I think a lot of people, including myself, were a little bit kind of underwhelmed. And it's been a long time waiting for the open to come round and for Dave Castro to chuck a skipping rope at the camera and be like, "You're doing wall walks." Everyone's like, "Oh, what a lame movement." But obviously, having done it a fair few times now, and having done wall walks, of course, in my own programming, obviously not enough, but having done the movement in my training, it was actually a good workout. It was great to be back in the open. And yeah, it exposed a lot of things that people like myself need to work on. And it also showed what a lot of people who have certain things or have worked on certain things or are blessed with certain positions or statures did very, very well at this workout. But all in all, really cool to be back into the CrossFit Open and looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting to be back doing the Open again, even though the community feels, certainly for us here at Coastal, has been very, very different. What we do have this year, though, is a process programming family where we have our athletes online. And of course, we have 5 affiliates now, all with their own communities, all doing this workout. So it's kind of become something just much bigger than ourselves, which has been really, really cool amidst this kind of crazy period of time. Let's talk about the movement standard of the wall walk. Obviously, we've all done wall walks at some point in our training. We talked about it last time. It's often viewed as kind of like a scaled movement to those who can't do handstand walks. It's something that I program a lot for our live program. Kind of traditionally was introduced as a straight arm exercise to develop the anterior part of the body. But when we've kind of done it in training, I think we've always used a nose and toes to wall. Has been the gold standard that we've looked for in a wall walk. Now, what do you think of this standard? And do you think it was a good standard? If not, do you think it could be improved?
Yeah, I think the RX variation of the workout, I think it's a pretty solid standard. Obviously, you can always go back and forth with, talking about people's leg lengths, talking about people's torso lengths. In terms of a shorter torso is probably going to be a bit more advantageous for this sort of standard because the shoulder line then drops down and it's a shorter line to get back because it's a 10-inch standard for everybody. But I thought it was a pretty good standard, if I'm honest with you. It's a very hard one to create a standard for. After having watched a few people go ahead and do the scaled one, I also think that was a decent standard, but I felt like maybe just a little bit too easy for the people in the scaled level. Maybe could have forced a couple more steps or a bit more movement rather than just going back over a line, especially if you use a real thin line as well. So yeah, just I think the RX one was solid. The scaled one could probably be increased in terms of difficulty a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think they did a really good job of clearing up the standard. I think there wasn't really any ways to kind of cheat it. There was definitely ways to find efficiency with the movement, which we'll definitely talk about. But I generally do think it was a good standard. And I guess my next question, Ant, do you think this is a movement we're going to see in future Opens?
Ooh, for some reason, I just don't think we'll see it for the next couple of years. But I who knows? I think it will be used a bit more towards the scaled open or the foundational level of it. I don't think it will keep rearing its ugly head over the next few years in the open. But this season is brand new. There's different stages to the CrossFit Open. It's a totally different qualification process.
More levels.
And Castro did say that he wanted the first one to be inclusive, and he definitely ticked that box. So, if it continues to be stage 1, stage 2 in the quarterfinals, semifinals, then yeah, maybe we will keep seeing it over the next few years.
Yeah, I think, you made a good point there about, it's suiting certain people, but I think it's important to remember that every movement in the sport is always going to suit a certain person. And, it's the best people in the world who are able to adapt and able to meet the standards to a very high degree of efficiency who end up being the people at CrossFit Games. So, simply rather than, being upset or complain that you're not that person blessed with those genetics, do whatever you can to get better at it. I certainly know that there are things that I could do that I can control from a training scenario that could get me better at wall walks that I haven't been doing. So let's just quickly finish this off by talking about the test itself. So the test was, of course, the RX division, a combination of double unders and wall walks. The scaled division was a test of single unders and a scaled wall walk. And then we had some really different variations across the other ones. But what did you think as an actual test, given that we have 3 weeks of the CrossFit Open, do you think that this was a good test? And if not, why?
Well, we have said that because it's only now a 3-week Open versus a 5-week Open, we did think that we would see some like kind of double barrel test, like a part A into a part B. So I'm quite surprised that Castro went ahead with a fairly simple workout. We did almost guess it in the update show before on the process programming vlog that we do. We're very close to guessing it. But yeah, I'm surprised he's just gone with a very simple couple of movements. Again, it is very simple in terms of massive amount of endurance and fatigue built up through the shoulders over the 15 minutes, if it took you more than 15 minutes. But yeah, in terms of the test, I think it was a good test. It's hard to say if it was a good test without seeing the next 2 tests as well.
Yeah.
It's very hard to say. He might go ahead and literally test everything in the next 2 tests, and then piece this part into the puzzle, and then you could say, yeah, it's a really good test. If the next 2 workouts, 21.2 and 3, are also couplets and are also ascending ladders around 15 minutes, then I'll probably say it wasn't such a good test. But who knows? But like I said, I think it definitely tested the proficiency of athletes in their pressing mechanics. It definitely tested athletes' proficiency in terms of the lockout position that they can stack overhead. And of course, it tested the proficiency of the double under. If you are really inefficient at double under, you paid the price massively on the wall walks, and vice versa as well. If one of those people just can't lock out their arms when you're shuffling your way back to the wall, then double unders suddenly went to hell. So yeah, that was a nice little partnership there. But like I said, it's hard to say if it's a good test or not until we see the next 2 weeks, really.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. When we obviously do a lot of programming for competitions here at Process Programming, run a lot ourselves, and it's always about the overall set of tests, the overall body of tests. Is it actually finding the fittest athlete by having a balanced set of tests? And only time will tell. I think what we can take from this, and hopefully this will kind of help inform our guesses as to what we might see based on past open statistics. But for sure, very much a local muscle endurance kind of test. That really challenge, for those who are proficient at double unders, which, a lot of folks who've been in the CrossFit space for a while are, just how well stacked are your shoulders? How much can you kind of make that a resting position? And, what kind of pressing endurance have you developed throughout your training? Okay, so let's talk about training then. I'll start with myself here. How could one improve at 21.1? Of course, very case dependent. If double unders is something that held you back in this workout, perhaps it led to increased breathing and heart rate, or like you said, inefficiency added to shoulder and arm fatigue, then of course you need to work on the double under. We talk about double under all the time. It's just one of those checkbox movements that once you've done it once, you do your first double under. It's kind of one of those movements that people kind of stash away and don't really revisit and refine. I certainly know there was a CrossFit Open workout 2 years ago where we had to do 100 double unders in between movements. That really highlighted the importance of really being proficient with the movement. And that was a movement I thought I was proficient in. And since then, I've kind of gone on my own little journey to get better at them. Still not good at them. And again, this workout once again highlighted I've still got work to do there. But within the wall walk, I certainly saw some of the best performances came from folks, like you said, who had that ability to stack the shoulders. And we know that the overhead movement or the overhead position is tested so frequently in the sport, whether it's with a dumbbell, it's with a barbell, it's a handstand walk, a handstand push-up, or now the wall walk. It just really emphasizes the importance of having a good position there. For why it's so important is its efficiency. The more stacked you can get your joints on top of each other, the less the muscular system has to work. And so, some really amazing performances from kind of folks you'd probably never really see in that probably top 10%, because they had proficiency with double under. They developed, some form of pressing and aerobic capacity, and they had that ability to rest essentially in that wall walk. Certainly for myself, that's something I'm going to be targeting, continue to improve my double under capacity, but also continue to work on that overhead position, which is going to be probably forever a work on for me. Is there anything else to add to that, Ant?
No, I'd be the same as well. Probably look to drop a bit of weight if I had to just work out again. A lot of bounding, a lot of inverted pressing work. But yeah, I'd be the same as you. Work on stacking the joints. You can obviously improve that as well. Not only just the position, but like you did say at the beginning, it is a lot of straight arm strength. So actually doing things like isometric holds and then going towards the more dynamic wall walk. But yeah, pretty much the same proficiency, double under, and working on stacking joints as much as you can.
Nice. I think if we want something we can definitely agree on is that the workout, the simplicity, and which is sometimes the beauty of this workout, was that this has blown the leaderboard wide open. It's meant that you can have someone who is very new to the sport of CrossFit, who perhaps had learned how to do double unders in a short amount of time, or took that skill from a previous sport, and of course, has the ability to be mobile in that overhead position, could do really, really well in this workout. And so just kind of a note for folks out there who perhaps didn't get the score they wanted, or perhaps have seen themselves on leaderboard in a position where they're not used to, maybe they're a little bit lower down the leaderboard than they have been in previous opens. I know that's certainly for myself. Don't be disheartened. It's just the first workout. So much can change. And really, this test has blown the leaderboard wide open. Anything to add on that, Ant?
No, not at all. I think, like you said, there's going to be a lot of outliers there. Some people are just going to be really good at double unders and really good at wall walks, and they might be 50 to 60 kg, and suddenly the next test might be an ascending barbell, and it's going to absolutely squash them. So it's like I said, we can't even say if it's a good test or good set of tests until the 3 weeks is done and dusted. But yeah, I totally agree that you just kind of wait it out, and it's just early days still.
Yeah. I have to say, amongst our process training community, which is our online training community, some really amazing results. Some of our athletes are also coaches finishing this workout, and a lot of people getting into that final round of the double unders. So that's epic to see from a training standpoint. Wall walks and something we only typically program in kind of deload phases. We have done that periodically through the year. We have a couple of different programs, the LIB program being one of them. The wall walk is something we actually test and train a lot. So really pumped to kind of see the movement. Never really thought it would be a movement we'd see in a competitive scenario, but I do love that anytime there's an inclusion of a new movement, it's now going to really inform the way that individual coaches and affiliates now program for the sport. And it just gives us more variation, which typically actually makes the programming process even more challenging now. But I think that's a really, really good thing. So it'll be interesting to see how the world goes about attacking this weakness and this new movement of them. Okay, let's finish this out. What are your thoughts on what we might see next week? Now, obviously, when the clue comes out, we'll have a good old crack and hopefully, get close like we did this week. But what do you think we might see for 21.2?
I mean, the only clue there is so far is that Dave Castro did say that he wanted to start with as much inclusivity as possible throughout the RX division. So he wanted as many people going to RX division as possible. And as you know, Dave Castro is a bit of a sick man. So he likes to see kind of people, blowing up and being like, oh, Dave Castro started 21.1 so well, and now you're just kicking me out by including bar muscle up straight away. So I actually do expect a fairly high increase in complexity, whether a barbell or gymnastic movement. I'm not going to say either one. I would say I would prefer a gymnastic movement. But yeah, I think the complexity and the difficulty of movement will go up a fair bit. I don't think it will be crazy. I don't think there will be another movement, having another new movement. But yeah, I just think a bit more complexity to narrow the field a little bit more towards the second and third test.
Nice. Okay.
Well, what about yourself? What are you thinking?
I agree. I think we're going to see a part A, part B this week. I think we're going to see the barbell introduced. I think we're going to see some gymnastic elements. I mean, to be honest, with the equipment lists provided, barbell, dumbbell, box, pull-up bar, only one of those things has really been used so far. So the options are wide open. I'm sure there's some thought behind that. I think that's kind of cool. So yeah, I will agree with you.
Yeah, I still think, even though the complexity will go up, I still think it will be an inclusive movement. Like a toaster bar, for example, definitely way more complex than a wall walk, but a lot of people can still do the toaster bar. But there's now massive separation between an elite athlete who's good at toaster bar and someone who can just kind of still be good at a movement, but like the wall walk. Now you actually have to be very, very proficient at it, and it's a skill acquisition that people have been training over a lot of years, versus the wall walk where it like we said, it just showed, and people kind of stood out and were outstanding at the workout that were really good at stacking overhead position. For example, we didn't actually have to practice the wall walk a lot to be very good at that workout.
Okay, great. Well, let's wrap it up there, Ran. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening in. Well done to everyone who took part in the first week. Remember, we still got 2 more weeks to go. And if you end up in that top 10%, then your journey is only just starting. So guys, remember, stay healthy, stay focused. Remember to live life like you normally do. And if you're not having fun whilst doing it, why do it at all? That's it from us. We will see you on Friday, where we talk about 20.2 after it's released.
21.2.
21.2. Thank you, Ant.
Thank you.